true. Let's discuss with Congressman Mike McCaul. He's the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, also Congressman from Texas, which is where Rex Tillerson hails from, and all these stories are kind of coming together. Do you endorse the understanding of the intelligence community that what they have learned about potential compromising information that Russia might have about the president-elect deserves investigation?
Well, of course it deserves investigation. I think the FBI, the intelligence community, and the Congress will be looking into these allegations. But let's be sort of clear-eyed about what is in front of us. It has not been verified. It is based on one source. I know in the intelligence community, when you have source information, you have to look at the credibility of the source and the information coming in. There's no factual proof that any of this occurred. If it did, I've been to Russia myself. I know in the hotel rooms and when you visit that you're under surveillance. So presumably if this took place, there will be video tape of this, and I have seen no evidence to confirm this.
Well, as you know from our reporting, the intel community does find the source incredible enough that they included it in their appendix to the report to the president-elect. And do you think that's the right standard to say, show us the video when we're talking about the Russian government and maybe what they had done? Again, it's just an allegation, but the idea of getting that video, that's setting a pretty high bar for legitimacy, aren't you?
Well, yeah, you're correct in the sense that it was included in the appendix to the briefing, based on one source information, but I've seen nothing really to validate that or verify that. And I do think, as pointed out, that it does warrant further investigation by not just the FBI and the intelligence community, but the Congress itself. My understanding is that the report on the Russian interference in our elections will be made available to the Congress. At this point in time, it's unclear whether the appendix will be.
You just mentioned the intel conclusions about the hacking during the election. As you know, the intelligence community strongly believes that it was Russia. The president-elect strongly disagrees with that, has done so consistently, raising a lot of questions about why he would be so intent on sheltering Russia from responsibility that seems to be known as a consensus among the intelligence communities. How do you explain that?
Well, I think since the time of his briefing just recently, he has acknowledged that it in fact happened. I think what he said is it didn't really have any influence on the outcome.
No, he has never said the intel community is right, I was wrong, Russia is responsible for this. He said Russia, China, South Korea, they all are trying to hack us. It's an issue. His people at his transition team say the same thing. They won't say in a simple statement, yep, intel community's right, Russia did it. How do you explain that?
Well, my understanding, and Chris, perhaps I'm wrong, is that he has accepted the findings that the Russians attempted to interfere with the elections, but it did not influence the outcome of the election since the time of his briefing. Now, prior to that time, Chris, I warned both the Obama administration and the incoming administration that this was a nation-state attack on our democracy. It turned out to influence the election, and it needs to be taken seriously. And I think consequences need to be taken as well. And we've seen a bill that Senator McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham have introduced in the Senate to have consequences for this type of behavior if a foreign adversary, foreign government attempts to influence our elections.
Just to be clear, you not only accept the recommendation of the intelligence community that this was Russia and they know that, but you believe that the hacks did influence the election.
I don't know.
I thought you just said that. That's why I'm asking you to clarify.
No, what I said was that Russia attempted to influence the elections, but I think the consensus of the intelligence community is that it did not impact the outcome of the elections.
Okay, and then how does all of this come together today when Rex Tillerson gets into the chair at the confirmation hearing? He already has his own pre-existing relationship as a businessman with Russia, and there's some speculation about what may have been done by his company's subsidiaries with state sponsors of terrorism. How do you think this all plays out for him?
Well, of course, this will all be vetted at the confirmation hearing. That's why we have those hearings. I think Rex is sort of a unique, out-of-the-box choice in the sense that he's not just some guy that's been in the government for 20, 30 years. He is a guy who has international business ties, including Russia, has good relationships with foreign governments, which I think can effectuate good foreign policy. And I think in the case of Russia, I'd rather have a guy who can engage with a foreign country rather than somebody who's going to become an immediate adversary. I think the fact that he does know Putin can influence and shape that policy. But to your point, Chris, this will obviously be one of the key questions asked of him.
Congressman McCaul, always a pleasure to have you on New Day. Appreciate your perspective on this.
Thank you, Chris.